Hey, it's Joey Balladonna here from Anthrax, and this is SAGAS.
Well,
look, this is a big one.
I didn't break out and join the podcast today.
It is now time for Devil's Advocate. Same time, same place, awesome.
What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin, the Serpentine Skipwith.
And this is Rand, the Berserker Marabou. And this is...
SAGAS.
SAGAS.
Promoting
Welcome.
vodka cruises.
Drink responsibly, kids.
If you want. I don't get it. No. Or Strongbow.
Strongbow.
So, before we continue, of course, we will talk about, if I can get it in frame, Morgrot. John Sorrell's personal baby. A very morbid and creepy baby at that. So, what is Morgrot, you may ask, if you haven't followed our last few episodes? It's a physical issue, as I said, done by John Sorrell. He's the mastermind behind the thing. It's a physical copy with everything from written reviews, which I helped do myself on some of them, artist interviews, which he does himself, gruesome artwork, really cool horror, serial killer inspired artwork, and also a lot of cool, just original ideas, such as the album cover, which is, he gets a different artist, I think, to do every different cover. So, it's all, and the back as well. So it's always a good time with him. This was the first SAGAS edition. We have since collaborated with Morgrot, John Sorrell. So every edition going forward will be a SAGAS edition, which is pretty sick. Like I said, it's a physical copy with everything a metalhead should think about in their wet dreams. I'm not saying what you should think about, but if you are going to think of something, it should be that. His newest edition should be out soon. There's been a bit of delays on his end, but he's doing it all by himself, the actual making of it. So fair enough, it might take some time. But please go to the link, which I'll put up below, to get yourself, if possible, pre-order if you can. If not, get it when it comes out. There'll be plenty of issues available. Go support John Sorrell and his Morgrot, and also support the SAGAS boys, because it's a cool project, and I'm very thrilled to have them with us. So Morgrot and SAGAS, the latest big thing to collaborate this year, and hopefully it will be a collaboration that will last till we all die. So yes, that's my beautiful memento to end the speech. Until we all die.
Until we die.
Until we die. You can't find a more heartfelt testament. So if you caught us, obviously it'll be up now because this is a pre-record, but if you caught us last week, we talked about the band Skybus, and we had Justin on, the lead singer, talk about it. He was ballsy enough to be on during his work break. That's pretty badass. It was a good time, it was short and sweet, half an hour of just interesting information, insightful questions, insightful topics about obviously his band, music in general, and obviously what would a SAGAS episode be without a very ill-timed, inconsiderate hell joke about Mitch Locker. No. But anyway, it was all good fun. Go check that out. He's a great guy, and it's a great band, a great EP number 2. And since he was the guest, he got to choose the album we talk about today, and he chose to shout at his boys, which he's going on tour with, if I heard him correctly last week. Tactosa, and it's another EP. I think this is the first 2 weeks in a row. Our first EP last week, and then second the 2 EPs in a row. That's like never happened. Exit Wounds, the EP by Tactosa. It is 5 tracks long, and came out January 12th, 2013, so not that longer. Considering officially here in Australia, April starts tomorrow. So this literally we're still right now. I'm still in the same month as this came out, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. So with the intro out the way, Tactosa. Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, like, it's not a huge diversion from the boys last week, Skyboz, but there is a shit ton of awesome, like, you call old school in this genre, old school crushing grooves from like the early 2000s. Very reminiscent of Suicide Silence, Mr. Mitch Lucker, rest in peace. Um, yeah, man, I actually really enjoyed this. I was expecting it to be a bit more of today's standard of deathcore, but these boys were some heavy hitters, man. Nice groove, and they're from Florida. So the boys last week were from Florida, and obviously United Music Mafia, all the boys are from Florida. So it was cool to hear some more music from that neck of the woods. Yeah, man, just heavy, crushing, groovy, unreal vocals. Like, we'll get into that, but wow, yeah. So I was happy with my first listen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like it was a great listen, and you know, for all the people who, I mean, I hope there are none, but for anyone who is questioning this album or may have negative things to say about it, my question to you is: your seconds from the end, what's it gonna be? Pull the trigger, bitch. I hope you got that. If you didn't, that's sad. No pity for a coward, and that's what you are if you don't like this album. Fuck you. No. This is great. Yeah, it's a great EP, and yeah, it does pay homage to the old school. Old school, the precursor of deathcore. The Carnifex and the Suicide Silence. There's a few things I loved about this album. First of all, how it blended elements of, because I was expecting, as he was describing it, because when there is a few things in this album that Suicide Silence didn't do, and there's obviously a lot of things that they did do to warrant the comparison that Justin made last week. But the things that I was surprised by that you don't hear much in at least Mitch's Suicide Silence era was the amount of death growls, because normally, as obviously everyone knows, that Mitch was infamous for his high pitch, and even Justin said that last week, that his high pitch was inspired by Source of Silence, because his high scream is something that is pretty ridiculous, especially considering most of Mitch's work was done live with a live band, so it's like fucked. But although there was obviously those moments in there was a lot more death growls and like lower registers, so I was expecting more of a Mitch, more of a like 80% high scream kind of thing, which it wasn't the case. It was a good blend, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it was cool to have the different contrast of the high and the low. And I was just saying there was a lot more low than I thought there'd be, which isn't a bad thing, obviously. And the other thing I really liked about it, I guess there's three things. I forgot about the other thing, but the second thing I liked about it is the influences of grindcore, because there are a lot of elements. It's like whether it's the breakdowns, whether it's the grooves, or sometimes even the vocalization of grindcore elements like Dying Fetus and so on, those types of elements. It had this real, like, almost grainy, because a lot of grindcore can sound like really raw and grainy, almost to a black metal level grainy, but like with it's like if you fuse black metal with, I guess, deathcore or death metal, you get what grindcore is. So you had a lot of grainy, but not in a bad way, in like a intense, visceral type of way, which again I wasn't expecting either. And obviously you don't hear any grindcore and Suicide, but it was really cool how they added those elements in, because it kind of added that extra depth of depravity, that extra depth of like grotesqueness. It's just like it sounded like these boys are really trying to just make, to a degree, kind of the most disturbingly kick-ass album they can, using all the most depraved and like hardcore elements they can, in the metal world. And real quick before I pass on to you, the third thing I really liked, and I only like this because I feel like this is something that only the precursors of the godfathers of deathcore did. You don't, I don't hear it that much anymore, but you used to hear it in precursor deathcore and a lot of what's the word? A lot of fucking scene metal, scene emo, screamer music is the use of sound snippets before a breakdown. You don't really hear that much anymore, but it's just like it was something that was in like every deathcore / scene band back then, and it's good to hear it again. Even it doesn't really matter what they're saying. It's just I love hearing that because like it reminds you, the little snippet or that little loose a cappella vocals before a breakdown, like how the whole music would stop and it would just be voice. Someone saying like you don't hear that much anymore. So it was kind of nostalgic in a way. So those are the top 3 things I liked about the EP.
Totally refreshing to hear all this stuff again. After it became like we were just absolutely saturated with this kind of vibe going back. Like we're talking like 20 years now, like where this all kind of started, which seems like yesterday to me anyway. But it's really cool to hear it now, and these boys are going for the gore kind of aspect of it, which is pretty cool. Like even the video for the first track off this, which is, as far as I know, was the first single, Dead Pacifist, which is a really interesting concept of a song. But the video, basically, it is what it says on the tin. It's a song about dead pacifist, somebody who, let themselves die because they didn't want to kill or harm or protect themselves, because they were a pacifist. There's a lot more in-depth stuff to that storyline of the song. But yeah, man, the video is like this guy pulling his own teeth, and I think at the end he cuts off his tongue or something. So it's like, it's this real gore like stuff that you would have gotten with Suicide Silence back in the day, But that track in particular is super beefy and really groovy. Like it's a headbanger, you don't get that much nowadays, and that's what's missing. I think it's the groove, and it is the grindcore, like you're saying, it's the grindcore and the hardcore elements, in my opinion. Like hardcore has always been my favorite genre. As much as I listen to like classic metal practically all the time, I still have like this when it's a good heavy breakdown, big chunky riff, hardcore is just where it's at for me. But there was that thrown in along this album. But like you said, the fries and the guttural vocals, like the way he's going from like literally line to line, it's an incredible skill, and he does it so well. Like this guy, Kyle Whedon, is absolutely brilliant at doing this, and he's a really good frontman as well. Like you can see from all the performances that they've done live, he's really engaging with the crowd, and he protects his audience. You know the way this kind of vibe, like everybody's going ape shit in the mosh pit. He wants the ape shit mosh pitters to go down the back of the room, and he brings the people who just want to headbang and enjoy up the front. It's a really interesting kind of way about it. Like he is, considerate to his fans, even though he's playing this kind of music. But yeah, man, just mean Chugfest tunes, which is, I was sitting there and I was just like, yeah, man, I'm digging this. Like, it's pretty much the album I needed yesterday and the day before when I was listening. I was like, oh man, this killer work. So fair play to Justin for getting us onto this. Yeah, but he said Suicide Silence, and I was like, oh really? And then I listened to it and like, boom, yeah, he's spot on, like, killer stuff.
That just reminded me, it's just like, because talking about, because it kind of triggered a nostalgic memory, because like a lot of the times when you go back and listen to like, those bits in deathcore or scene bands where the music stops and they just say a sentence or two before it goes back. It's never anything nice. It's never like oh, isn't it a good day today? Like, I wish you well. It's always like, I'm pretty sure this is from a Suicide Silence song, whichever one it was, but it's just like when Mitch goes, no one's gonna remember your fucking face. It's just like, damn. That's what. And then then it got me thinking, like, and this is completely off topic, but I gotta say this before it drives me insane. But there's this hardcore punk group, I don't know if you've heard of them or not, called Ken Mode. And they're like a underground, like, kind of punk band. And they had this album Success, brilliant album, real hardcore punk album. And on this one song, I was trying to find it, but I couldn't remember which song it's off. I know it's off the album, but on one of the songs, literally, it starts off, there's this like riff, and it starts off with the dude, whoever he is. And he says, he starts off the song by saying, and this is stuck with me, this is terrified into my soul, like this random line. He says, it's just the mentality of it. He says, I want to know how it feels to kill the nicest man in the world. And I'm like, damn. Like, I don't know why. It's such a random thought, but just like, it's stuck with me all these years. And it's just like, like that. Like, it's something you can imagine hearing when the beat stops. I want to kill the nicest man in the world. And I'm like, fuck. Like, that's deep. But yeah, it's always still like it makes me laugh thinking like it's never nice things they say. No. It's never like, oh, your dog was cute. It's always like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then like the beat drops, which is quite ironic because as you mentioned ages ago when we talked about Suicide Silence, they did have an EP, a demo with Family Guy snippets, which is pretty funny. Like, but I digress. For a 5-track EP, this is really, obviously you have interesting track lists like DIY Autopsy, which I can just imagine like some dude just like, killing a dude like with like instructions. He can't read it properly. He's like, do I cut the leg off? Do I cut that? Yeah. Which is, I don't know why, like sometimes I get super vivid when I think of like track lists, like track lyrics. It's pretty funny. But no, this is good. And it's brutal from start to finish because, you got that amazing creepy album cover, it's like a shattered mirror with like a creepy face. Very unsettling, which is obviously what the band went for. And for 5 tracks, it really is, it's a perfect, like, because how some EPs or albums, kind of like the album we reviewed ages ago, that Nails album, it's just short energy. It's not long at all. That album's like 13 minutes. It's crazy, but it's similar to that. It's like 5 tracks, no track longer than, the last song's 4 minutes, but generally the last 4, the first 4, 3 minutes, 3 minutes 48, but it's just high energy, high intense purpose from start to finish, and you don't really get a chance to breathe, listen to this album, which is sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes, you might be feeling off, you might be feeling tired or not in the mood, and then you listen to a EP like this, similar to Justin's Skybus album. It's just like, but it's just kind of it's like an adrenaline shot to the heart. So it's all I can say really is that this is just all around just a great EP.
That's exactly it. I wrote 2 sentences down when I finished listening to this album, and it was refreshing deathcore and 5 great songs. It was just like that. Just sums it up. It's just a perfect amount, and it's interesting. There's a saying, I got the same vibe from Justin's album last week as well. Just 5 killer tracks. It's all you need. You don't have to, worry about this concept of albums and stuff. Even though I love making full albums, it just really, really works when you throw it down. Just throw down some killer tracks, and oh man, like Tastemaker was their second single off this as well, I think, and that kicks in with like extra energy. It's a nice fast tempo track. So these boys, they throw it in, even though there's like 5 songs, they're throwing in all the different skill sets into it, and the whole album is littered with pitch squeals on the guitar, and I love that. Like, I could just listen to a whole album of someone going whip, whip, whip. Have a nice day. Whip. Imagine. I love it. Do you know, I'm gonna have to make an album or not an album, a track, a deathcore track. Have a nice day. I'd love that. Big breakdown. Have a nice day. Oh man.
That actually reminds me. I don't remember the name of the song or the artist, but I used to play it. I mean, I still do. I play a lot of wrestling games, and one from my childhood. I forgot which one it was, but one of the songs was like this, and I kid you not, these were lyrics. Like it was a metal song, you know. Dun, 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 like, it was like a kind of like just a normal metal, heavy metal, just general heavy metal, and the pre-chorus before the chorus, the dude goes, and I know these are the lyrics because I played the game long enough that that was the song. But the dude would go, you know, imagine a pre-chorus that's building up, and then the guy goes, "You gotta learn to love one another." And I'm like, damn, that's quite a lyric. And then like guitar, whatever it was. Yeah, it's crazy.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you know, it's hard to talk about an EP into that much length because you know it's a short project, but yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, as we both just discussed, it's a because actually no, you said during the intro that you had some thoughts about his vocal style.
Yeah, I mean, literally, you know, this chap is really talented, Kyle Whedon. He has just a natural ability. I mean, I don't know much about his history, but you can actually hear the transition from his fries to his gutter rolls is so smooth that he either spent, you know, 20,000 days, 20,000 hours, or whatever, like just working on this, or else he's just naturally gifted. And I think that this generation has brought out a lot of really gifted, heavy vocalists, and definitely I can see these guys rising, like the same with Suicide Silence, because of the vocals. I really think this chap is standing out from the crowd, you know. But they're all incredible musicians. I mean, you've got the lead guitar player Jacob Peterson. I mean, his guitar style is absolutely lethal because it does exactly what it needs to do, but then it's got like a subtle nuance of his own style. You know, it's just really cool. Like his riffs are big killer riffs, but there's like nice subtle complexity in them as well. Like, but not too much. Like it's just great. And I'm not sure which guy is the drummer, Christian or Joshua, but that drumming on this album is just absolutely killer as well. I couldn't find out where it was recorded. I tried to scour, but I couldn't find any info on that. So maybe it's self-recording, and if so, it's absolutely bitching. Like there's no solos on it, but the overall sound is bitching. I'll give a bitching stamp on the overall sound. But yeah, it was really hard to find something that I didn't like about this album. Like, to be honest with you, I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but yeah, it was just stellar work all around. Like, absolutely brilliant, and a really good suggestion from Justin last week. I was really surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. You know, there's a shit ton of like wicked chuggy halftime bits. You know, like, and I love mixing pig squeal vocals and pitch squeal on guitars and big chuggy halftime riffs. Like, I just can't get enough of it. Have a nice day.
Learn to love one another.
Learn to love one another, everybody.
And before we go on to sponsors and shit, I finally found, after all these minutes, it finally clicked. Here's what the official 2 sentences of that song I was talking about.
Yeah.
I would like to learn how to kill the nicest man in the world, make him feel uneasy, make him feel strange. What a demented thought. That's fucked
up. Like,
shout out to Ken Mode. We'll talk about you one day. Yeah, so sponsorships. What do you want to cover? Who do you want to?
Well, seeing as you were speaking about alcohol at the start, I would like to speak about my very good friends and very amazing company, the Ulster Mead Co. This is their bottle, King of the North, which will soon be available again, as far as I know. They have a lovely batch. Mead takes quite a long time compared to wine and stuff. So they have their mead and a new batch of mead as well coming along. But at the moment they have their hibiscus wine, which is a herbal wine, and it's now available to, as far as I know, it's to order. I think worldwide. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you can go onto any website of stores here in Donegal. There's it probably doesn't mean anything to most people in other countries, but Super Value was one big store here, so you can probably get it from there on their online store. But either way, if you can get yourself a bottle or get in touch with the guys, I'm sure they'll send you some stuff. That's amazing stuff. But like I said, drink responsibly. But Corbin says, "Fuck it, don't bother."
I said, fuck it, I'm not. I don't know you. Fuck it.
Something clever anyway. But it's it's a good cop, bad cop situation. We have to do that to keep ourselves on the air. But yeah, Ulster Mead Co, fantastic stuff. And my brothers Kuba and Thomas are doing so well at the moment. And I'm hoping to get out to their meadery soon to get some promo shots and stuff. And yeah, it's just going so well. I'm delighted for them. Skull.
Yes, I've wanted to try it for a while now.
No.
So
I know.
You're depriving me of this experience.
Here, I'll pour it through the speaker, man.
Forcing me to drink this newly released double vodka cruiser.
Yeah. I mean, like, that looks all right, but it's drivel compared to this.
Well, whose fault's that? I would be drinking that stuff had I had some.
Yes, I will. I'll sort you out.
No. So, who do I want to sponsor besides my vodka cruise stuff? Let's do Josh Freeman again, because you can never have too many shout-outs for the man, the myth, the legend behind our merchandise. So, Josh Freeman, a.k.a. There's Only One Elvis. Can't wait for his side band. There's Only One Elton John. Coming out, the synth pop variant. There's Only One Elvis coming out with some new music. It might already be out. His latest album, which I've already done a review for, that album will be the headline for the latest Morgrot issue. And I read the review myself. I recommended it to John Sorrell, and he loved it, of course, because it's an amazing album. Just an amazing guy. He's a one-man band, which is pretty crazy. He also had his real side band, Motown, which is incredible as well. You know, they go out touring and stuff, so that's pretty good. And he also makes our merch. So I'll put a link above where to get it from or what to type in. Yeah, that's the latest model, the Ren Marabou version. So it has the Sagas Podcast Berserker and the Bitchin Solo Plus logo. Looks pretty sick. I'm sure I'll have my own custom edition soon. I talked to Josh recently because we have as I said to Ren, we have a big comedian guest agreed to be on Sagas. So he might be interested in some merch, which if that's the case, that would be pretty sick. So yeah, I talk to him pretty often. Great guy, you know, and one thing people should know about me is that nothing makes me respect a guy more than incredible work ethic. I don't know how it was like with Ren then. Incredible work ethic. And Josh, I mean, he bleeds it. So, you know, he's got crazy work ethic. His band, his side band, plus making our merch and he's just a non-stop beast. He actually told me one time on Messenger that he operates his days under military time. He's a beast. Right. So, I mean, what more do I have to say about him? Go check out the link I will have above when it comes out. Go support his merch, our merch, and yeah, keep the ball rolling for all of us. So, good old Josh. So, you know what time it is, Ren?
It is time for the Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate. Have a nice day.
So, the Devil's Advocate. I wonder when we die if we'll get any props from the devil for doing this. It's like, hey devil, you got the devil's apple. Or I guess whatever devil is in Viking mythology.
Yeah. Well, you know, the hell might sort us out. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. So devil's advocate, as it somehow came to be, I always thought. So for me, it's weird because for me, the best and worst tracks were kind of easy for me this time. Not to say it's not to say this is a bad track. It's just, you know, as normal, you either nitpick or compared to the rest of it, one just sticks out for. And then at the end of the day, it's all personal taste. So hopefully, Tactosa, when you watch this, just because I say it's a bad track, well, it's not even bad, just because I dislike it a little bit, it doesn't mean it's a bad track, and we all have different tastes. So that's why Devil's Advocate is a double-edged sword. So my last track, my worst track would be Exit Wounds. For me, this was just a bit of a repetitive groove, you know, like a bit of the same. It sounded repetitive in the lyrics, sounded repetitive in instrumentation, and just a tad bit disappointing because, you know, when you listen to an album, whether it's EP, demo, album, whatever, you know, you want the final track to be I mean, I hope most bands do. Expect the final track to kind of soothe your way out of the album, you know, be the perfect outro, you know, because the outro is important. The intro and the outro, I'm not saying they're the most important, but they are important because the intro puts you into the album. Just like off the top of my head, the first track off that 2016 Judas Priest album we covered, Firepower. Fire, you know, just how much that puts you in, and then outros. I don't really have a specific outro in mind at the moment, but you know, it can make or break. Not break an album, but it can, because the last track is the last thing you hear, obviously. So it kind of, to some, can make you reflect the album in that context. If depending on the final track, and yeah, I don't know, and you know, it's the title track, Exit Wounds, but I don't know. There's too many repetitive segments for me compared to at least the last four. So for me, Exit Wounds, worse. And for the best, I would have to choose. As I said, it's pretty easy for me. I'd have to choose, ironically, the fourth track in All Good In. Yeah. The 3 minutes 14 seconds. I thought that was the complete opposite of the last track. You know, it was refreshing. It was unique. It was creative. Not to say the last track wasn't any of those things. It was just had a bit more liberty to it. It was a bit more refreshing, a bit more not so predictable as the final track, you know, and it really stuck out to me. Obviously Dead Pacifists would be one as well, but for me, yeah, fourth track was just a killer track for me. And, you know, for me, I would have preferred it switched around, you know, because, yeah, if that was the final track, that'd be a killer way to end the album. Yeah. So those are my choices.
Very, very interesting this week, bro. I don't know what kind of stuff we were eating or drinking this week, but we've somehow locked in exactly for the first time in a long time. I had a couple of variations of what I was going to go for Devil's Advocate, and you know, I had a lot of contenders that I really liked. Tastemaker was a killer track when I first heard it, and I was like, yeah, that's a contender. DIY Autopsy was also a contender because of that snare tone. Oh man, I love it. Like, you know, you can either get it right or get it really badly wrong with just the snare tone. And it's a delicious, dry, hollow sound, and I just love it. And there's this tasty big breakdown midway through. And it's got the hardcore vibes that I love, like, you know, and it's just, it has that like face scrunching outro, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm digging this, like, and I love the chugginess of Tastemaker with the tempo, but yeah, Dead Pacifist was actually a contender for my least favorite, and then I heard Exit Wounds, and I loved it. I thought it was great. There's so much groove, and I had that delicious snare with a bit more ring to it, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think the concept of the song being, you know, Exit Wounds, being a final track was kind of cool. But there's so much quality on this EP. So like it kind of got pegged by quite a lot of really good songs. And like I said, it's a killer song. It'd be a killer song on any album. But Exit Wounds would be my least favorite. But my favorite, the same as you, number 4, Ogurden, can't even pronounce it. But there was all this dissonant notes, and you know me, I think I've said the word dissonant notes on the podcast like in every fucking episode that I possibly could. It's just like there's this really nice. I just love those weird tones, like overtones and stuff. And the guitar technique in this, one of my favorite guitar techniques, and I tried to incorporate it quite a lot in my own stuff. It's like a palm mute where you fade it out, but you hold the note. It's like it's hard to explain, but it's like a boom, 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 and I just love it. Instead of just hitting the note open, it's like I love it. It's one of my favorite things. It gets me so excited. It's simple, but like it's really effective. And the vocals Kyle done on this were extra heavy, like extra heavy. I don't know. It sounded like a different bloke on the heavy parts. It was just sick. So yeah, man. So like for the first time in ages, we are 100% agreeing. Woo!
Time to celebrate with the United Empire. Shout out Will Ospreay.
Yeah, Will Ospreay.
Yeah, actually, I should be shouting out Aussie Open. They're Australian.
Oh yeah.
Mark Davis, you're a beast. Yeah, nice. So if I remember correctly, you have a choice for next week.
I do. A band that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and I never got around to it because we have been so busy with other things. I finally get to speak about one of my favorite bands, Accept. This is the Germans and their album Blood of the Nations. It's just a killer album from 2010. Great band, great legacy, so much to talk about with them. And there's so many albums I could have picked. Was thinking of Rise of Chaos, maybe, or their newer album, Too Mean to Die. But Blood of the Nations is an album I'm always going back to, and it's actually heavily inspired the new stuff we're working on with the Berserkers, riff-wise. So, yeah, it'd be great to chat about them. Boom.
I accept your decision.
Challenge accepted.
Accept. Nice. Cool. Well, episode 61, that means. This is
61.
Wow. 61. Man, I wonder what album we're going to cover by 100.
That's going to have to be special, right?
Still a while away.
Yeah.
Hey, that's when we can finally talk about the OG, the Teflon Don, the GOAT, Britney Spears. Although it is funny because did you ever hear the that Children's of Bodom cover, Britney Spears? Did they? Children of Bodom covered Britney Spears. Hilarious. Man. They're a funny band. Oh, they were. Rest in peace to that guy that died from it. Great band. Very underrated. But anyway, that's this week's episode, and I'm disappeared. This week's episode, and as we always see here on Sagas, same time, same place, or something. United Empire, King of the North.